So I remember Jimmy Savile as a kid, and he was a disc jockey. They called him a disc jockey. He was a strange man. He had this white hair and all that stuff. And he became Jim will fix it with kids and everything, and he was a strange man. Then he kind of disappeared, and he got old and old and old. And what happened to him? But it turns out that even though he had no obvious income stream after he dropped out of being a famous so-called entertainer, he had houses all over the place. He had loads of cars. He had a Bentley and all this stuff. Where's the money coming from? What was lost in the revelations about Jimmy Savile is the reason that he got away with it. He was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. That's how he got away with it. And they had to watch his back to watch their own. And so he would provide children for these rich and famous people. This is why he was on very friendly terms with Ted Heath. So then you look at the other area of that Savile story that's never been explored, which absolutely should be, and it is this. In Savile's own words, in the 1960s, Lord Mountbatten, a known paedophile, invites Savile, who's a disc jockey, into the heart of the British royal family. It's how he became a close friend of Prince Charles, a close friend for a long time until they fell out, of Prince Philip, and in the inner circle, including the Queen. Sorry, banging that. And he remained in that inner center of the circle, the inner circle of the royal family, right up to his death, basically, and a friend of Charles right up to his death. And I met a lady. In fact, I met her in a house I lived in just down the road from here. She came over to the Isle of Wight, spoke to me for a long time, who was a long-time friend of Princess Diana, friend of hers for about 9 years. And she told me about Savile. She told me about Savile because Diana had told her, and she knew from other sources as well. And she described how when Diana was married to Charles, that Savile was always all around, all the time, and she thought he was sleazy and horrible and could stand him. Well, the reason he was there, let's put this together. He's at the inner core of the British royal family circle, and he's a procurer of children for the rich and famous, right? Now let's take another step. I remember seeing a film, just very quickly, a report, that the Queen was making a visit to this place. And this guy came up, and he's in the crowd, and he's going to protest, right? The security services knew he was there and came across. They knew he was there. They knew he was going. They knew he was going to be in the crowd. And you can't cough anywhere near the Queen without the security forces know about it and Special Branch know about it. The police clearly knew, because they interviewed him a number of times, that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile. And he's allowed into the inner circle of the British royal family, and Special Branch and MI5 are not screaming, what's going on? He's a paedophile. What you doing allowing him in there? No, he's allowed while being interviewed by the police from time to time.
Anyways, that's David Icke talking about Jimmy Savile and his he was a famous disc jockey in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was kind of like the Ryan Seacrest of the UK, and he was friends with the royal family. He was seen in like a bunch of pictures with them up until his death. And it comes out he's like a huge pedophile. And
he was supporting like rich people with their child addiction. Yeah, it's fucked up, man.
Yeah. And so what do you think of David Icke? You said you don't
I've never heard, like, before you mentioned him, I've never heard of him. and you said he was like a, pretty big deal. So, yeah, like this stuff, like I haven't like heard about these topics before. Like I never even heard that. So for me, it's like hard to know, exactly what the time period he's talking about is.
Yeah, we can talk more about Jimmy Savile. There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Like,
people
so-
have talked
and-
about Jimmy Savile,
and
but the thing is about David Icke is he's been talking about him way
Mhm.
before people found out.
I just want to preface this, ladies and gentlemen. I smoked like half of one of the longest joints I've ever had in my life, and it's not that big. I'm gonna be real with you, but to me, it's fucking obliterated me right now. So I might not have been able to pay attention to everything in that video.
With that,
Yeah.
that's our cold open.
That's our goal.
Welcome to the Midnight Podcast. This is OG Los.
And this is Banny D.
Midnight 931.
Now approaching midnight.
Welcome to the podcast, guys.
What the fuck is this? Yo, thanks.
This is
Thanks, Carlos.
this is episode 2. Follow up to our Maxwell episode.
You put on the most anime music you possibly could. Yeah, man. You know why? Because anime openings, they represent the beginning. The beginning of something new.
Something grand.
Something grand. And what is that? It's Midnight Live.
And yeah, I guess with Midnight Live, we want to start branching off to more online content, you know, and that way we can, not only reach Ottawa, but be, like have a world community, have like a world audience of different people, I like variety, and I feel like we can do a lot with Midnight in having a lot of variety and a place that you can trust. There's no propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no, our sponsors will only be hype sponsors.
They have to be dank, man.
Yeah, like we're in talks of having a vape shop. What's the name of the vape shop again?
Vaporwave.
Yeah, so-
Vaporwave Ottawa.
So Vaporwave Ottawa, we're in kind of talks to see if we can work out a deal to have them be a sponsor. We're not gonna get sponsors to sell out. We
Yeah.
want to be able to provide you dope content, and that's not only music mixes or musician interviews or even conspiracy interviews. It's just anything and everything, but it has to. We're gonna try to make it come from an honest place.
Mm-hmm.
And when we post, if we have a news show, it's not some shill fucking
Yeah.
right there we swore, and nothing's stopping us. We're not gonna have
Yeah.
any censored bullshit.
None of this
You
shit.
can't. We won't have
Yeah.
a show where like we won't jerk off into the mic or anything like that. But it won't be as restricted as we were before.
Yeah, we want you guys to hear like what we actually want to say. Like a lot of times on the Midnight Show, we kind of get hung up on certain topics because we're always debating. It's like, are we allowed to take that step? Like, are we allowed to go that far? And we want to be able to talk about things and make offensive jokes, but we don't want to get kicked off our platform. So we're coming to YouTube to really flesh out the show and spread out into a bunch of different branches.
Because
yeah,
I feel like, at least if we're honest, then there's because the audience can tell when there's something holding us back.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very obvious that when there's times on the show that we're holding back, and then it's like, what's going on? Like, these guys are not talking about anything really.
Yeah, we take one foot into a topic, like we put like a foot in, but we never like go through the door.
Yeah, we only dip our toes in the water.
So people just like kind of. I don't think that's when I listen back. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, and I find that our best response has actually been our most recent venture online was with our Jordan Maxwell interview.
Mm-hmm.
Interviewed this conspiracy researcher of the occult and secret societies. He's been doing it for 60 years, and we had him on the show. We recorded it, posted it online, and to our surprise, we've
accumulated
we've
4,000 views.
Yeah, around 4,000 views already, and
tons of likes, like 60 or something likes.
Exactly.
And to like, for a lot of channels, I see a lot of channels that don't get a lot of views, right? And for me, it feels really great when we put really hard work into our first video. And for us, like 4,000 is like a big deal. For us, that's awesome. You know, I've seen tons of videos just posted by certain people that get 15, 16 views. Now, of course, we like, you know, Jordan Maxwell is a really famous guy. So of course he's going to bring views to us just with his name, but like seeing you guys in the comments saying like, "Oh, dude, you were great interviewers." That felt great for us, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And we want to, I think it made us realize that we want to do more of this, of this honesty, more of, you know, maybe we won't, you know, every show will be different, you know, like we'll be talking about different things. We won't, there's a time and place for everything. I'm not going to hit you with a bunch of Illuminati conspiracy things when you're just trying to listen to a music mix, you know?
Yeah. Let's just talk about trap, you know what
I
mean?
Like there's a time and place for everything, you know, but I don't want to be held back, you know, like I hate, that's the thing when you're on terrestrial radio, you know, you're held back by a lot of things. You know, you say one thing, you know, for instance, me, I'm from Venezuela. I try to talk about the issues. No, just get slapped on the wrists because.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Like they'll say fucked up shit in Spanish on
certain basically
channels
like
at our station.
A lot of the media is
fucked up, man.
Is very corrupt, and if you don't stick with the scripted story, you know, you can get in a lot of trouble. For instance, basically what Maxwell told us, Jordan Maxwell told us, his friend was a TV reporter, very famous TV reporter. He couldn't mention his name. I guess he didn't want to expose him. But he said they're given what to say on a teleprompter, and they sign an agreement before taking the position on the show as anchorman or anchorwoman or whatever, they're not allowed, in the agreement it says they're not allowed to deviate from what's on the teleprompter. And if they do, they can go to jail right away.
Yeah.
They give up their rights. They'll go to jail without a trial. So, and it's like, it's not as intense as it is here at community radio, but you know, you still have to follow a script, you know, they basically,
they support one viewpoint.
Exactly.
Right? And that's what, you know, YouTube's one of the best things about YouTube is like everyone gets their own perspective. It doesn't matter what side you're on, doesn't matter if you have a side or not, everyone gets their own perspective.
Yeah.
And we were really happy to express that with Maxwell. And he nailed it, man. Like he had all these talking points ready. He knows what he wants to say when he goes into the interview. So when you have him on, you can just let him roll. Of course, we were asking him questions, right?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't in that? Like that's a great opportunity. He's, you know, a legend. But for the most part, you could just let him talk and learn while you knew other people were
exactly.
Too,
and I think that's what I want to do with this Midnight Live website is have shows where, you know, if you're interviewing somebody, you know, the host is learning something, you know, like it's an actual conversation. It's not scripted. It's not like I'm just, you know, it's not like I'm meeting a quota.
Yeah, I hate when that happens, man.
It's not even like sometimes I hate like too much prep, you know. Some shows will have more prep than others, but honest conversation I definitely want to have with interesting people.
None of cutting people, like cutting the video to make people look bad. Like, none of that shit. Just you know, we do. It's really fun for us to listen to them too. You know, like it's not just because we're sitting there we may not talk doesn't mean that we're. It's more of like a respect for the other guy rather than a. I'm high. It's hard for me to talk.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. It's like it's more of like a respect for him.
Yeah, because it's a show. Like we're not going to interject as often.
Exactly, and it's not about anything else. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't know where this point's going. Yeah.
But I guess that's the point. We're gonna do what we want, and what we want to do is provide you honest, good content, no matter what it be. So this will be, you know, I guess this podcast is kind of just a generic one, kind of following up to the last one. But so what did you? I guess to follow up.
Yeah.
What was your big takeaways from that Jordan Maxwell interview?
Oh, for me,
like what surprised you the most, or what?
Well, he told us. I don't know if I should say that, but
yeah, there's some things he told us. There's some things he told us that we're not allowed to say.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to repeat.
But on the camera, like from the actual interview.
For sure, the number one thing, which we also made a video for, was how to get out of a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
That was like some next level shit.
That was pretty big.
That and the like he went on about how to get out of a speeding ticket for a while, and he went into the other one, which was like
so basically not
it's like you can get out of other tickets too by trying to pay your debt before it's in their system.
Yeah, so for the audience members, for audio listeners out there, in summary from that conversation we had with Jordan Maxwell, in that conversation, he was describing on how, you as a regular citizen of your country, you don't know the law as well as you should.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't tell you that you should. There's a lot of sneaky hidden things in the law. For instance, a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
So that's why we posted this video, how to get out of a speeding ticket. And basically what Maxwell explains is that any criminal law is basically you're breaking economic law. It's like market law. It's like business law.
Yeah.
So it's a
transaction.
Yeah, it's a transaction. Any criminal law sentence is a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So when the judge sentenced you to pay a fine, there's like I wouldn't say the judge. It's usually basically what it is when the police officer, the bylaw officer gives you a ticket, he's writing you a ticket in commerce.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, because you didn't pay the meter, or you're parked here past the hour that you're supposed to be, you owe me this amount of money. You owe the state this amount of money. And it'll print a ticket. And then so it'll have the signee of the ticket, of the IOU. Basically what a bill is an IOU, So he's saying you owe him $50. You as the signee, and he puts himself as the co-signee. So what a co-signee is in business or in a transaction is someone he's basically covering a co-signee. Think about the co-signee of a loan. So when you co-sign a loan, you're basically saying that if the guy can't pay the bill, the signee, then you're going to cover him.
Mm-hmm.
So when he writes the IOU, it's basically it's like almost like a loan, and he's co-signing that ticket. So if you can't pay it, he has to.
Yeah.
But they don't say that to you. You just assume you have to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really smart, I would suggest if you want to try it, you get a lawyer or something. You can take this to court and say, or he gave two ways you can do this to get out of the ticket.
Mm-hmm.
The first way is you can return the ticket to the state and say, I don't want to pay this. I think there's a mistake. I don't want to pay this. Make the co-signee pay this.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll make the officer pay the ticket. So that's the one way. The second way was to, on the day that you get the ticket, go to the office, go to your city hall or wherever you can go in person to pay a ticket, and say you want to pay this ticket right away. They probably won't have it in their system by the time, if you go in right away. I think it takes a certain amount of hours, 24 hours or something, for the ticket to be in their computer system. Yeah. And if they don't have a record of it, they'll say, we don't have a record of this ticket. Then according to international commerce law, if you go to pay your debt to a debtor, and he refuses your money, she refuses your money, then the debt is free. So you don't owe them any money. If you go to, let's say you wanted to go pay your student loan, you go to pay your student loan and they say, we won't accept your money. According to law, if the debtor doesn't accept your money or your payment, then your debt is free.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way you can get out of it, just by grabbing the ticket, going to City Hall in person as early as possible before the ticket enters the computer system, or hiring a lawyer, getting the ticket, basically trying to scam the system by saying that this is a ticket in commerce, and explain that to your Secretary of State.
Yeah, but you said that was a risky move. Like,
it is a risky move.
If you're actually notifying the state, that's pretty risky. But if you go and you have some witnesses around you, then I think the second one is probably a lot easier to pull off. But yeah, that was like one of the major ones for me.
Yeah. Well, what I took away from it mostly was that like nothing is what it seems.
Yeah,
really.
there's
Anything
all
that
some
you've been told, like by
weird-
school, by your teachers and everything like that, it's all to change your perspective or change your reality by making you, telling you how the world is from what they've been told, and their parents have told them the same thing, and it goes on. But it's like you're born into this, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's all fugazi.
Yeah, well, think about it. You're born into it. You just follow, you're told to go to school. Okay, I'll go to school.
You want friends, right?
Yeah.
Friends are important.
Well, they tell you to do things, and you just do them.
Then yeah, because
what else do you know?
well,
You don't know anything.
There's nobody else around.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know what I mean? Like everyone's part of it. So how are you not part of it? You can't even understand what being not part of it is. Really, because it doesn't occur to you that exists.
So I guess the whole takeaway of that conversation was that I don't know no one really knows what's going on.
Yeah.
We're not really being told the truth, and it's because we're all born into it. So just because someone's older than you, let's say like an adult or something, like let's say you're like 15 years old and some 40-year-old guy is telling you something, like, doesn't mean he's right, because at the end of the day, we're all born into it and born into this life, and we're just following what we've been told, and I think that was the biggest takeaway, that I don't know what's going on, and I think that's why I brought up David Icke as like a suggestion for our next guest, if we can get a hold of David Icke, because his whole thing is on how the elite changes the perspective of things. Like, for instance, 9/11. There's a lot of suspect things about 9/11. Pearl Harbor, like the official stories of things, and it's basically David Icke goes into like how them changing or shaping your perspective and you following that perspective. It's kind of like a feedback loop, and you get stuck in your in your 9-to-5s and never being able to afford anything, and not questioning, because you're just stuck in this your own perspective, I don't know. Do you think? I mean,
no, I see what you mean.
I think he'd be a good guest if we can get a hold of him.
For sure. Yeah, I want to talk to him, just because like I love people from that area, and I want to get to know who he is. Maybe I'll research him some more before we interview him, but for sure. Well, he seems really interesting.
He's been kind of demonized in the media as being known as the reptile guy. He's one of the famous.
He's one of the reptile guy.
Well, he is the reptile guy. He's the famous
my man,
one.
Dude.
He's the one that put it on the map. Yeah,
that's him. My man, David Icke.
So
okay, I've heard of this reptile stuff for a long time. I didn't know who it was or where it came from. That's interesting.
See if I can find a clip talking about it. Thing is, Vice did an article on him, and they kind of demonized him. If I can get something where he's just talking without interruption.
Oh, I think I saw the Vice one a long time ago.
Yeah, he was demonized heavy.
Okay.
Well, here's a little clip, a 2-minute clip of David Icke talking about reptilians and the royal bloodline.
And before anyone asks, I don't like Vice.
Energy, information, consciousness, and not solid, physical, this reality. It means that things like shape-shifting become explainable. Because when I talk about these hybrid bloodlines, they're actually hybrid information fields. And when I'm looking at you now, I am decoding your waveform field, and you, as I'm seeing, in the form that I'm seeing, exist here, right? Now, if you were a hybrid, one of these bloodlines, you could shift that other part of the hybrid field, so that becomes the dominant one. Now, as the observer, I'm decoding that one. So here, you would be something that's not human. To my experience, you have physically, solidity, move from one body to another. But no, the only place the shift goes on physically, illusory physically, is in the decoding processes of the observer. And, one of the things that they've talked about for years, some scientists have, but now is becoming more and more accepted, is that this world, as we perceive it, only exists when we look at it, when it's observed. Because what they've found is, interestingly, that when something is observed, then you have the waveform collapse into a particle form. Now, I would go one step further and say it's not, this world doesn't exist as we see it when it's observed, but when it's decoded. And the act of observation, the act of focus triggers that decoding, that world. So this world as we perceive it literally only exists in the form that we perceive it when we decode it.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation.
So what did you think?
Dude, that was trippy, man. Yeah, like I find that stuff interesting, but I'd rather hear him go more in depth in it before I make any opinions.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Basically, what he was talking about there was the whole, I guess, concept of, in summary, the reptilian alien theory is that there's high government officials and celebrities who are actually like transmutating reptilians who can take shape of humans.
But they're quite literally becoming the shape of a human. Like, because your brain is decoding them that way, right?
That's what he's explaining. It's
how they can trick you.
Exactly.
Because people are like, why don't I see reptiles? Well, they trick you like this, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So that's his theory on that. Interesting.
Yeah, so I think it'd be pretty fun to talk to this guy.
Yeah, man. I want to know more about that. That sounds like fun. But yeah, the reptilian stuff and the he was talking about that guy before who was
Jimmy Saville. Yeah,
that shit's fucked up.
So basically, I kind of explained Jimmy Saville, but thing is, because you're from America, it's not as impactful to you as somebody from the UK, because it's like it's literally as if you found out Ryan Seacrest was a pedophile the whole time.
1 second, just fixing my mic. Yeah.
Or I don't know, somebody like
he was like a big MC back then.
Yeah,
right?
he was big. He was like the guy who hosts every like New Year's and stuff like that from the 50s, 60s, 70s onwards. Maybe I can find like a clip explaining Jimmy Savile.
So to my understanding, just to get this down, just so we're clear on this. So he was he was trafficking children to high level families, right? And they tried to try him, but they couldn't get to him because he was doing it for the rich and famous.
Basically, that's a conspiracy theory.
I see. Was he connected to the Clintons?
I don't know if he was, actually.
Yo, that would be hilarious. But everyone's always connected to the Clintons.
Somehow, the Clintons are always involved in some stuff.
Something's always going on there.
See if I can find here. This is a little explanation. This was on ABC.
That one of Britain's most
this is ABC News.
The late Sir Jimmy
When was
Savile,
this?
ABC Australia.
A predatory
2012?
sex offender.
That's not that long ago.
Exactly.
What?
And this is on. This is what they play on the mainstream news.
Okay.
The evidence is now overwhelming that one of Britain's most beloved entertainers, the late Sir Jimmy Savile, was also a predatory sex offender. It's believed he abused young children over many decades, and 2 charities in his name have shut their doors. Many people in Britain are questioning how his behaviour went unchecked for so long, and the scandal is infecting his main employer, the BBC. Europe correspondent Mary Gearan reports.
As Jimmy Savile became one of Britain's most popular entertainers, host of the smash hit program Top of the Pops, as he forged a reputation as a tireless fundraiser, as he was knighted by the Queen and the Pope, he was, it now seems, leading an appalling double life, sexually abusing scores of young girls and some boys, some in hospitals, some in care homes,
How do you
some
go from
in
being
the very studios
How do
that
you
made
go
him
from being knighted by the Queen
Blessed by the Pope.
and by the Pope? Like, how did he even get that far? Like, because
it's honestly because they're connected.
Yeah, of course. I know, but it's just so funny to me, man. Like, what a big contradiction. How did this not wake up people? I didn't know about this.
Yeah,
This not wake
and it's
people
on
up?
mainstream news.
It's
but
literally
they
on
never
mainstream news.
but they don't really talk about it ever again.
What
You
the
know, it
fuck?
kind of slips away from people's memories because we're so
Yeah.
indoctrinated.
Yeah, we're just
We're
like,
so
oh, well, I
indoctrinated.
gotta go see Susan tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have to cook dinner though.
Exactly. Anyways, let's like watch a little bit more of the
Yeah.
explanation,
That's trippy.
so you
man.
can find out a little
Him
bit
a
more.
star.
I just didn't know what to do. Did not know what was happening. I was quite a naive 14-year-old. The worst thing that I will never get out of my head is the taste of his cigar breath.
I can't believe that I allowed such things to happen.
Ew, his cigar
That I
breath.
didn't immediately
That's disgusting.
rush and scream it from the rooftops.
Oh my god, what a greasy
Make this stop.
bastard, man.
Just make it stop.
What a greasy bastard.
But I didn't. None of us did.
Welcome. Another edition of Top of the
Fucked
Pops.
up, man.
Jimmy Savile was an iconic figure in British public life and was loved by millions of people. To have found out that he was a paedophile, somebody who was molesting young girls, is absolutely shocking for the British people.
That his offending started in the 1950s, 1958, and went
What?
on to 2006. So we're talking
What?
about 4, 5, 6 decades of abuse.
56 years?
This is a man who was, I think, for all intents and purposes, in modern day life, an untouchable.
Jimmy Savile died last year, aged 84, his reputation officially intact. But police have now identified more than 200 potential victims, and they're pursuing 400 lines of inquiry.
One woman who knew...
Liz Dux is representing some of those people.
They range in severity to people who, allege that an indecent assault happened when they were seeking an autograph and, he assaulted them by putting his hand up someone's skirt, to very, very much more serious complaints of sort of organised paedophile rings, to other very vulnerable people where he would abuse them at, bath times, or he was given a room in a hospital and abuse took place there.
Here we go.
There were years of rumours and even some fruitless police investigations. But Savile's conduct only came to light after an expose for ITV by Mark Williams-Thomas, a former police detective turned investigative reporter. He says Saville was as manipulative as any sex offender, but his celebrity made it easier.
It was far easier for him to simply gain access to children through his television work,
So
through
this guy's
his
kind of like Michael
media work,
Jackson.
through his charities.
This is like the
particularly his
Michael
hospitals,
Jackson
where there
of
was children
the
in
UK,
abundance.
Basically, yeah. Basically.
Saville got away
Oh,
with it.
fuck, man.
But yeah, man, and these things, like David Icke was talking about this stuff, about the satanic pedophile rings, for a long time before it became mainstream. They all called him crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should actually look up at David the reason why people called him crazy. So, in summary, this is what happened. He was a famous soccer player. Then he became a sports journalist, and he was really famous in the UK. And then one day, he goes on this talk show and he talks about this spiritual experience he had, and then from then on he started going hard by researching like conspiracy theories and the like. I'll show you the interview he had on the talk show I believe it was in the late 70s or early 80s, and this is the reason why David Icke kind of got shunned for a lot of years. Everybody thought he was crazy.
What did you talk about in that talk show?
Well, I'll show you. It's he kind of had like one of these, those moments where like he just had this intense spiritual experience, and he just sounded crazy when he was talking.
Okay.
But like if you hear him out, he actually makes a lot of sense. The thing is, back then it was such a shock for people to hear something like this on mainstream TV. Like, think about the 80s TV, like everything was scripted, like, and fabricated. Nothing was real. Yeah. And for somebody to just talk his mind, it sounded crazy. But if you actually hear what he's saying, basically everything he said and all the stuff he was talking about with these politicians, 20, 30 years later, it came out. The truth eventually comes out, right? So he kind of gets vindicated nowadays.
It's crazy.
See if we can find.
But that's what they do, right? They do, like, it's whenever somebody comes out and they start talking too much truth, the media is just like, bye-bye. you know, because the thing that sucks about the media, traditional media, is that it's like a private access club. You know what I mean? If you get kicked out of a club, you're never coming back. But you know, on the internet, who gives a fuck? Say whatever you want because you'll always come back. There's always a way to store your videos somewhere else. There's always a way to get them back up, right?
Yeah,
so he was there.
exactly.
He wasn't there during a time where he could let that happen. And then they probably demonized him in the media after. Am I guessing right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I'm seeing if
Yeah,
I can
that's usually
find.
what they do.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
find that specific interview. He was this famous talk show host in the UK. I just forgot his name.
Yeah, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah,
It's
see if
really
I can
fucked up.
find it. It's like
David Icke, late night. Yeah, sorry everyone. We're just doing some Googling right now, trying to find this guy. Give us a sec.
just try to find this
Yeah.
video clip here.
Yeah, we weren't like, we knew we were gonna talk about David Icke, but we weren't expecting to like get this deep into it. So like, you know, we're trying to find the right videos for you. Maybe we could talk about something else while we wait.
Yeah, I just gotta keep googling here. Here,
Well,
this is it.
You
I
found
got
it?
here,
Okay,
yeah.
solid.
This is his appearance on Wogan. That was his.
Wogan. And
that
that's-
was a late night interview, and
Is
the
that
guy
the
kind
British
of
Jimmy Kimmel?
basically, and the guy is kind of roasting him the whole time, and you feel, I don't know, man, it was kind of brutal the way he was making fun of him.
According to his book, The Truth Vibrations, the world as we know it is about to end. David Icke. So you're all in
for
the
those of you
turquoise, which you-
listening, search David Icke on Wogan. Complete interview. That's the one.
Yeah, it's probably it was one of his most famous appearances. You know, it's
Mhm.
almost like equivalent to them seeing Tom Cruise freak out on Oprah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like that. That's
Yeah.
like he was ridiculed for
Except
this for a long time.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure Scientology's a crock of shit.
Oh, of course.
Like
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Like who knows? At this rate, who knows? Maybe they are right. Who fucking knows? Nothing works the way you think it works, right?
Yeah, well,
but I'm pretty sure Tom Cruise is insane.
Yeah.
From
well,
what
that's another topic.
Yeah, we should get into Scientology.
We should.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
definitely
hold that
down to
thought.
talk.
Yeah,
let's hold that thought. But anyways, this is David Icke on Wogan in the 80s, I believe. Oh, 1991. That's what it was. When it was.
Of course, is the collar.
Hold on a sec.
Yeah, that's a good start. Fill your mouth full of sweets.
Yeah, well, see, the world is not necessarily going to end, but the Earth is going to go through a series of geological changes that are necessary to make sure it doesn't end. That's the point.
Yeah. Did I see you say that turquoise is the color? What's turquoise going to do?
Well, there is an energy that comes from a being called the Godhead, which is, I mean, we talk about God. The Godhead is not a guy with a beard sitting on a cloud. It is a massive spirit, the basis of all creation. And coming out from this Godhead, round all creation, through all the stars, through all the planets and everything else, is the life force known as the light. I mean, the Bible refers to the light. And within this light are various other energies which have certain gifts. And these other energies have a frequency that is the same as all the colors. And turquoise actually is the same frequency as an energy called love and wisdom. Therefore, when you wear that color, you attract it. When you wear black, you attract a color that is the opposite to love and all the things we wish to bring to the earth.
But
and it attracts another kind of energy which is very
But this is very hard.
imbalancing.
This is very hard on priests and nuns, isn't it?
Well,
oh shit. Yeah, I see what you mean. Things start to line up.
maybe that's
Things
a
start
sign
to
that
line
maybe all the truth is not in the hands of the traditional church that has been with us over all these thousands of years.
Well, now, let me get the story right. The press claim that you claim to be the Son of God.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yes, you see, the thing is that it's quite funny, really. 2,000 years ago, had a guy called Jesus sat here and said these same things, you would still be laughing. It's really, really funny that we've not really moved on that much. There have been many missions, if you like, over the last 12,000 years to try to free the earth from control by a force that is working against the Godhead. The Godhead is the basis of all love and wisdom and all the rest of it in the whole of creation. But there is another being, the Bible refers to it as Satan, the real name is Lucifer, who is trying to take over creation. And because of the very important part this particular planet plays in the whole, actually destroying this planet would be a major step forward in that direction. Therefore, for the last 12,000 years, the influence on this planet has been from this being and from the energy which he sends out. And it's an energy that stimulates people to think in a certain way. So we hate, we are aggressive, we have no forgiveness, we have no tolerance. And I ask the audience this, when you survey the world today, when a child dies in this world of preventable disease every 2 seconds, when the economic system of the world must destroy the earth simply for that system to survive, when you see all the wars and when you see all the pain and when you see all the suffering, is it a force of love and wisdom and tolerance that is in control of this planet? Or is it a force that wishes to bring about the very hate, the very aggression, the very suffering? Because the key thing to get over, Terry, is this. When we think, it is not a vacuum. When we think, we create an energy field. This is how telepathy works. An energy field leaves one being and other beings can tune into it and read that thought. When you think thoughts of love and wisdom and of tolerance and all the things we wish to bring to the earth, you create a certain kind of thought energy, the very same energy that the Godhead sends around creation. When you think the other thoughts of hatred, of anger, of aggression, you create a different kind of energy known as negativity, which is very, very destructive. This being called Lucifer lives off this energy. So the more that is produced on this planet, the more powerful that being becomes. Therefore, he stimulates and has stimulated this planet over 12,000 years since he's been in control to produce as much of this energy as possible.
So evil has been in control of the planet for 12,000 years?
It has been the dominating force. Evil's not the right word. It is imbalance. But it has been increasingly in control. As I repeat, survey the world, ladies and gentlemen. Is the force of love in control of this world, guiding this planet at this time? Of course not. The negativity, the thoughts that I'm talking about that are very destructive, are pouring out of this planet
let me
every
interrupt
day.
you. Was it a great shock for you to discover this at 38?
Well, I think the word is gobsmacked. But again, the best way of removing negativity is to laugh and be joyous. So I'm delighted that there's so much laughter in the audience tonight.
But no,
but just let me say this.
They're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you.
Fine.
I didn't mean that to be hurtful. Terry. I don't want you to misinterpret it. They're not laughing in sympathy with you.
No, let me say two things to that. First of all, if anyone believes, after 12,000 years of this truth being lost and forgotten, that coming out with it initially is going to get any kind of reaction other than that one or condemnation, then I would be a crackpot if I thought that was the case. The other thing is, there is this great illusion, that Jesus was born and stood up and said, I know who I am. It was revealed to him in stages. He was very, very close to beginning the mission which is described in the Bible, but not described brilliantly accurately. before he knew who he was. And when he came out, Terry, and said, I am the Son of God, I am an aspect of the soul of the Godhead incarnate because of things that need to be done on this planet urgently, people laughed, people ridiculed. And in the end, they crucified him because the intolerance on the planet at that time was so great that if someone else in the traditional church says we have one life and we are judged on that one life on earth by a judgmental God on whether we go to heaven or hell forever, we are judged, some of us, on 90 years and some on a life that lasts a few minutes before babies die after being born. Some are judged on having perfect physical bodies and being millionaires. Others are judged on one lifetime racked with disabled bodies. If I said that, people say, okay, fair enough. We either believe that or we don't. But people don't actually laugh. But when you come out with an alternative view, suddenly it's very funny. I find the version of life that I've just described extremely funny in comparison, but they have people who believe that and expound that view, have every right in the world to have that view and expound it. I'm tolerant of them. I ask people to be tolerant of another view.
Well, now, this is not entirely unreasonable, but there are a couple of questions. First of all, why you? And secondly, if I may say so, you have confused the message by an awful lot of predictions. Mm-hmm. You've told us that there are going to be earthquakes, and some of them going to happen quite soon.
Yeah. Well, two things to that. First of all, why me? Well, why anybody? I mean, people would have said to Jesus, and many other people like Jesus that have not been written into history. I mean, that was the most famous effort of this kind to wrest control of this planet from these forces. But there have been many before that. They would have said, why you? You're a carpenter's son, for goodness sake. Who the heck are you? So that's
so
why anybody?
You're saying you were part of Jesus' soul before.
Precisely.
You're also part of many other people's lives on the way through history.
As we all have been. We've all been on this earth and incarnated into different physical bodies many times. It's called reincarnation. But the other point you bring up.
Anyways, that was his first TV appearance. He went from talking about sports to appearing on the show and talking about that.
Really?
So that was in the 80s. So that whole shift was like, he got like ridiculed for it heavy. But he made a lot of good points. Just like that last point. Why is it that, you talk about like, you believe in like a God that's going to judge you if you go to heaven or hell, and you live one life. It's like, people accept it or they don't, but they don't laugh at that aspect. But then he presents the idea of like, your soul being shared with somebody else's soul and reincarnation. And all of a sudden you're seen as like a
heretic.
Yeah, some sort of like, everybody's laughing like this guy must be some crazy hippie or something, It's interesting. He's making a lot of good points that like just by the audience's reaction, that hate is like hate and, mentalism and, fear is definitely winning the fight in the world compared to love and good, And that's the thing. So after this appearance, he started talking about, the governments, they're going to force you to go to war by doing, false flag attacks and things like this. And then 9/11 happened. And he started talking about like, the pedophile rings and stuff. The thing is, he was a journalist too. So he knew how to ask questions and get into access to certain things, right? I think he was a journalist for like 20 years before this. And he kind of, he went from being the shill that talked about sports to, trying to talk about real things, And but yeah, no, it's be interesting to have him on, especially now.
I'd love to. Those guys seems awesome.
Yes,
I love his perspective. I wanna understand it. I want to see what it is.
Yeah, well, he's definitely expanded on this view since then, because that was his first TV appearance, and then he kind of started writing books and doing really like strong like investigative journalism, and I think he's like way more popular now than he was back then.
He speaks with a real confidence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if he is bullshitting, I don't think he's bullshitting. I think what he's saying he really believes to be true. And for somebody to be that sure, I think this is why the people were uncomfortable. It's like for somebody to be that sure, they either have to be crazy or they have to be telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
Now,
well, these things are very interesting for me to like hear from him, but I find a lot of his the takeaways from his podcast and his books is that he'll give you actual like facts and references on people in terms of like the conspiracies with the government, and then he'll tie it into how he views the world. I find it very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, he'd be dope to reach out to.
Yeah, I'm really down. Yeah, we should talk about how to get in contact with him later.
That's
for sure.
I think on his website, I think there's a contact page.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how I got in touch with Maxwell. So
let's try it.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. To our listeners out there, that's the beautiful thing about the internet. Anybody can try to do one of these little shows.
To our listeners, Jordan Maxwell was a great guest. Highly suggest you go to jordanmaxwellshow.com.
Yeah.
Honestly, that website is like the biggest blast from the past ever. Like you go on it and it's just all these 90s retro vibes and like, not formatted the best, gonna be real, but it's just a lovely treat. Go to jordanmaxwellshow.com.
Well, his research society and his recommended book sections are great. Like I'm learning a lot just by going through the recommended books list.
Yeah, you told me to read a few. I haven't had time yet.
Yeah, I've been reading a few. I've been getting spooked out.
Yeah, that's my problem. Because when I start reading this stuff, I get really spooked, and then I just can't fall asleep. So I gotta. How do I I'm living in the Matrix right now. I don't have time to be trying to exit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I kind of take comfort every time I learn something new about the world that changes my perspective. I'm actually more comfortable. Like I'm like I know what's up.
Yeah, but I don't. That's the thing. I read a lot. Like I've read a lot of these things, and the problem is like it just makes me feel more lost. You know what I mean? I read conflicting views from everyone, and I just feel more lost.
Yeah,
and I understand the idea of building your own self, like the view that you understand to be true to yourself. But even then, the view that I understand to be true to myself is just as horrifying as any of these other prospects.
But the thing is, like, just knowing that there's other things that you're not being told, just knowing that it makes it easier to just call in sick that day. To not show up
for
to work.
sure.
Yeah.
I just don't care. I'm just like, okay, well, I don't feel like investing in this part of my life right now.
Yeah.
I don't. It's all such a big scam.
To not take it too seriously, I guess that's the takeaway of it. Don't take life too seriously in terms of.
Yeah, realistically, society is just like a game that pays you out as much as you want to play it, right? You don't have to have the iPod Touch, you don't have to have a Maserati. You can just wash dishes for 16 hours a week and support yourself in a shitty 1-room bedroom apartment and eat food. You can do that, right? But it's all about how much time you put into the system, how much time you put into the game. If you put more time, you're going to make enough money to get the nice shiny thing. It's all just a game. So when you say I don't want to play that game for a day, nobody cares. It's not a big deal. It's only when you do something crazy, when you start breaking the rules of that game so extremely that do they kick you out,
Yeah.
Slap a girl on the butt. That's the big one. Don't break that rule. Not saying it's a good or a bad thing. It's probably a bad thing. But that's if you break that, you get kicked out. Or don't show up for 2 weeks, you get kicked out. Then you can't play the game anymore. They get rid of your controller. You can't.
Yeah,
you can't play the game anymore.
Here's a good analogy for people who don't play video games. If you think about the priests, let's say you grew up without knowing for years, because for years people didn't know officially that priests were touching little boys.
Oh yeah.
So people listen to the priest more. They were more a respected figurehead and stuff. But once you have the knowledge that, a lot of these priests touch little boys and then get relocated, never go to jail, it makes you not listen to the priest as much. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I take comfort in discovering little things about the world.
I'm happy I was distrustful of religion since I was very young. I don't think spirituality is a bad thing, but religion.
I don't even think religion's that much of a bad thing.
I think it causes good people to do things that they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, for
you know
sure.
what I mean? Some people take it really seriously.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They don't have an open mind. They're too naive to realize that they're being manipulated at times.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a good way of control.
But
for sure.
Well, here's the thing. When I was a kid, I did Sunday school, and we would read the Bible in Spanish. And thing is, you would read something, and then they would tell you what it meant, but it was like so different from what you thought it meant. And it's like, what makes their interpretation right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they're telling me what this means, but it doesn't mean that to me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I read it a different way. I take away different lessons from it. So I think it might not be the text per se. Obviously, some things are weird. Like, like there's some parts in the Bible where like, don't eat shellfish, and stuff like that. Like,
why?
Yeah, it's like why? Like,
am I eating demons? But what am I doing?
Yeah, but the thing
What's
is,
the
like,
real
you can
reason?
tell. You have that instinct. Even me, as like an 8-year-old kid, I knew like some things were like, all right, this is just some weird thing. I'm gonna just skip over that part.
I very, very vehemently remember. Sorry, I really remember clearly the moment where I stopped believing in that bullshit.
Yeah.
Like stop caring about like their perspective. Like I saw through the bullshit, and that was when I was in the 3rd grade. I was at St. Luke's. They had like a bishop of the area come by, and he was answering questions about God to us. Right. Back nowadays, I don't think they even let you respond, but this was a Catholic school, so they let us ask the questions ourselves. I think nowadays they don't let the kids ask questions anymore. So I at one point he was talking about like gods and like how God handles like when you die and you go to heaven or hell or whatever. And I said, okay, so like how does it work? Are there all a bunch of gods up there for each religion, and do they all take care of their own people? That was my interpretation as a child, because I grew up around a lot of different religions. My mom was always very multicultural, so I asked, like, is that how it works? Is there multiple gods up there, and do I get taken care of by my own or by somebody else's? And then he just turned to me. He's like, no, there's only one God. You can't say that. Like, he snapped on me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher had to like pull me away. And at that moment, I was just like, nah, man. That's suspect, like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. Why should I, like, what's the difference between what you're telling me and what buddy over there with the Quran's telling me? What's the difference? You know what I mean? What's the difference? There's no difference. How can you say that yours is the only one that exists? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
what's the difference between religions? It doesn't make sense.
They have different beliefs.
Yeah,
right?
but all of them are just, there's only one true God.
Yeah, all of them
it doesn't make sense.
So here's basically, I guess this is the way I see it. Like, there's different. They believe in different things.
No, but I mean, like, how can you make that claim?
Yeah,
you know what
can't.
I mean. Like, you have as little evidence as the other guys. How can you make that claim? That's not a claim you can make. It's a lie. That's not a claim that you're allowed to make. You don't have enough proof to make that claim. If I hit up God, if I hit up Christian God, and then within 5 minutes, he brought me a pizza or some shit, I can back up the claim and I say, my God's the one and only God. He brings me a pizza when I call for him. Look at right there. He just did it. Does yours do that? No. So mine's the one and only God. But nobody has that proof.
But you could also say that they're talking about the same person, just different names.
Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's just when it comes to something like religion, you don't have the proof to back up statements like that. And there's a ton of statements like that throughout the Bible that always just throw me off. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why I just take it as it's more of like it's like Lord of the Rings. It teaches you important life lessons. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't actually a dragon. It doesn't mean there's actually a Balrog out there. It's just teaching you really important lessons.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's my take on it.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. You're not
so why was have somebody telling me what to do?
Yeah, well that's the whole thing with religion. They tell you what it means. And
yeah, fuck that. Doesn't make sense. Fuck that. Why would I? You know what I mean? Fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck them for doing that to you in Sunday school.
Yeah.
Fuck them for trying to pull that shit on me. It's horseshit, and it sucks because, like, you know, the thing that I feel the worst about when it comes to talking about religion in general is that there's people out there that really, really strongly believe in their religion, you know, and to them it's really their life, and it hurts them when I say things like that. It would hurt them to hear me say things like that. So that's the thing that sucks the most. But the sad reality is, like, we're not trying to hurt you. We're just trying to make sure people understand that you shouldn't take everything at face value.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I like there's a lot of good things I saw in my church too, you know. It's not like they're all pieces of shit, you know. Like there was a lot of free.
That's why I'm saying
there was a lot of free food, and
there's good people that believe in things wholeheartedly. It just sucks that, like, you know, that there are certain people higher up in those organizations that are trying to teach you something for a malicious reason.
Yeah, and
that
there's a lot
really
of
sucks.
Well, I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of cover-ups. You know, a lot of priests just get relocated once something's discovered from that.
I think I watched a movie on that, Spotlight or something.
Yeah, there's a lot
Do
of.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot of documentaries on that.
No, it was like a movie. It wasn't a documentary.
Oh, a movie?
Yeah, but it was really well done. You know the guy from Birdman?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that actor. He played the lead in that movie, and it was about uncovering, like, how they first found out, like, that huge break in the 70s about it, like how they first found out, and they're looking through the books and they're like, holy shit, like, a bunch of every single time a priest molests a boy, he gets located somewhere else, and they see it in the books and the logs. Right.
And you know what's funny? The Pope never got flack for it. Yeah. Ever.
No,
he was seen as a saint when he died.
The Pope is still, no matter what happens in the Catholic Church, the Pope is too old to move around and do anything himself. So he will never be, you know what I mean? He'll never be caught up in this shit.
But he always approves it, though.
Yeah, but, like,
he's the one that approves the relocation.
Just because he approves it, if approving something is through word, right? Nobody can catch you approving something.
Yeah.
But you can catch somebody who actually fucks kids, like Epstein. You can catch him. He actually does it. But just because he said, yeah, go ahead and do it, nobody cares. You didn't do the thing yourself, so you're still a saint, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I care. I care. I don't want to say nobody cares. I'm sure a lot of people see the Pope as a piece of shit.
Yeah, but not nearly as many as the people who see him as amazing. You know, even though I know he's fucked up, this is how deep this shit runs in me. Like, even though I know he's fucked up, I know he's definitely done fucked up shit, that part of me is just like okay with it. Okay with not even with it, with him as a person, like his identity. Hilarious. I'm like, in my heart I feel it. I'm like, oh, for some reason I know he's fucked up, but I still don't feel that negativity towards him. So that's some next level brainwashing. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing with Obama, right? He was so glorified and venerated. Even though I know he's in suspect weird shit and like with hot dogs and Pizzagate and stuff, I still on the inside I'm just like, whatever. It's Obama.
Oh, he has a lot of other weird things.
Yeah, man.
Didn't I show you the Obama Satan mask?
Yeah, that's fucked up. That's fucked up, man. What
weird.
The fuck? Yeah, so
weird. But you still see him as like, oh, he's just goofy Obama.
Yeah, but like I know, but it's just they put it in my heart so deep. They hit me somewhere, and I don't know why.
Exactly what David Icke's talking about.
Exactly.
The change of perspective changes your reality.
Exactly. So it's somewhere like in my mind. I may know it, but I still haven't accepted it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gone the full 9 yards. So he's still in my heart for some reason.
Yeah, it's because of the media.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's because
whoever controls the media controls the people.
The worst part about the media is it's so integrated in my life, even though I know it's bad. It just like it happens to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm just going around. I'm like, oh, there's the media. Oh, that's cool. And I'm like, oh shit. I just watched some fake news. You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't mean to. It just caught my eye on the side.
Well, that's what we're trying to do with Midnight Live website. Just give you honest entertainment. You know, I'm not trying to push any sort of agenda or anything like that.
Shit, man.
I have. You know, we don't have millions of dollars. You know, this is just like some guys who got together to try to put out some dope content for people to enjoy. You know, good conversations with interesting people. You know, so you know it's coming from an honest place. You know. And
none of that fake shit, man.
You heard us here. We just called the Pope a piece of shit, and no one censored us. So
yeah, God bless.
Like, there you go.
Yeah. They're gonna take our money, but they can't take our pride.
Exactly.
So because YouTube has they're really good at making sure nobody talks about anything bad. You know how they do that? They just won't pay you to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So why would I spend all my time making sick ass videos when I don't even get paid to do it? You know, that's fucked up, man. You know,
Yeah.
and those are the people that bring in the money. You know, the people who make the fucked up videos, they're the ones who bring in the money. Like the Philip DeFranco's, I wouldn't say he's fucked up, but like he does like controversial news.
Yeah.
H3, they swear a lot and they do random shit. iDubbbz, guys like that, you know. And then some of the celebrities bring in views too. But those guys, they bring in a lot of views, but they're pretty controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and they let some of them get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
But,
as long as you don't like. The thing is, something like Pizzagate just gets taken down immediately.
Exactly.
It's weird.
Dude, Pizzagate's the most fucked up, folks. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've researched that. Like, you know what? Okay, I think I've told you this before, Carlos, but you know what the most suspect thing for me about Pizzagate was?
What?
That they took pictures of the back room of this pizza place, and they're like,
yeah.
the guy stormed in and they found nothing in the back room, so obviously it's clean, right? But you know what's more suspect than having a child sex dungeon in the back? Having a giant concrete room with no windows in the back with absolutely nothing in it.
Yeah,
there was
weird.
nothing, not a spot in that room. It was just completely empty. And then I'm just like, well, obviously something was happening until this crazy guy came barging in.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, maybe they're right. Maybe there was nothing in the room from the first place. But I mean, isn't it just a little suspect that the pictures they take are of this empty fucking room?
Well, there's a lot of suspect things.
Yeah.
Especially the guy who uploaded that picture, the owner of the pizza place.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at his name, I think his Instagram name has something to do with pedophilia.
Yep.
A lot of his logos has the same thing, same idea, same thing to do, like stuff to do with pedophilia.
He has some creepy like art museum that's directly attached to the pizza place, and like, you know, and he literally sent text messages out to a guy just being like, yeah, I'm a pedophile, but it literally doesn't matter what you do because nobody's gonna believe you. And nobody did. Like, you know what I mean? He literally just talked about him being a pedophile, and everyone's okay. You know, I think he did something fucked up, you know, me, but most people don't even know who he is.
Exactly.
You
He's
know,
not in the news. He was actually on the news. Actually, he was on the news talking about, like, he was on the news crying. He was like this sob story about how this guy stormed this pizzeria.
Yeah,
and like how, like, you know, everybody hates the gay community and stuff like that.
Yeah, of course. Even though it wasn't about the gay community.
Yeah, it wasn't about
this
that
guy,
at all.
But here's the thing. The guy who stormed into that pizza place, it wasn't like he really thought that there were kids being held hostage in the back. And you know what? He's probably right, but he didn't find any. But he really did that. It wasn't like he went there with any ill intentions either, but they painted him as a psycho. He thought, like, you know, and don't get me wrong, there's a limit to like how far you can go for certain things, right? But it's not like he went in there with an intention of hurting any gay people. He went in there with the intention of saving children's lives, right? That was it. And sure, he got emotional. I don't remember. I think somebody got hurt. That's why I made the news.
Yeah,
right?
I think he brought a gun.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
brought a
main
gun.
thing.
So
obviously, you can take it too far.
Yeah, but like, I mean, he thought there was kids in the back
I
being
know, that's
molested.
true. I mean, if you really thought that, you'd do something.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'd
go,
do something.
You'd go crazy, right? You'd try to save them at all costs. But like, it's just fucked up to me, man.
Yeah,
What is with this constant connection between the rich and pedophilia, man?
Yeah, David Icke talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
If you're interested in that, I would suggest a lot of David Icke stuff because he goes heavy into it. See if if there's a clip of him talking about Pizzagate. Yeah, there's a lot of really long videos though. Oh well, here's a little quick one. It's David Icke on Pizzagate.
Oh, this beat is sick.
Well, I've been asked by many people to say something about what's become known as Pizzagate. This has been, of course, all over the web for weeks, and it breaks down in two basic polarities. There's the mainstream media, sits back in amazement, that has trashed the whole thing, and every detail has been dismissed. Every possibility has been dismissed. But that's what you expect, really. But on the other hand, you've got people who are convinced that every detail of the allegations about Pizzagate are true. I would just say to those that are focusing on this and investigating this, and good luck to them, I say, just make sure that you don't get carried away to the point that you're making assumptions on detail that can be discredited, and thus, by association, discredit the whole idea that there's a paedophile ring at all. Go back to original sources. Check, recheck, check again. And if then it all adds up, then well done you. Because the more people that investigate this whole arena, the better. But it's got to be investigated in a professional way, and not just because something's been passed to you on Facebook to accept that it's true by definition. And I would say again, to those who issue forth this extraordinary, shocking level of abuse at those that are questioning some of the detail, even all of the assumptions of Pizzagate, you're just doing what that which you are opposing wants you to do by intimidating people into silence just because they have a different opinion to you. It's a society of free thought, free expression, free opinion that we're trying to build, isn't it? In the face of that which seeks to oppress and suppress all of that. And so we need to be at peace with people having a different opinion. Because if we're not at peace with that, we're not at peace with freedom. And in the end, if the free flow of information is allowed to prevail, the truth will, indeed must, come out. So whether every aspect, assumption and detail of Pizzagate is true or not true, it changes not one thing in relation to this. There is a global network of empathy-deleted, psychopathic pedophiles and Satanists that are obsessed with children for reasons I can explain at length. And they are the people running our world. And thus, whether Pizzagate is true or not true, that remains true. And we need to face it and not allow our incredulity that they wouldn't do that to stop us realizing what's really happening and what's really happening to children now as I speak all over the world.
So here's the funniest thing about this though. So like, ironically enough, even though, you know, fucking kids is the worst thing you can do, even on the media, the rich and the famous who control the media do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You still see these odd cases of these like fucking weirdo, you know, isolated guys fucking kids on their own in vans and stuff. But I guess they don't like it when you do that. You have to fuck kids with them, man. You have to fuck kids up there in the nightclub. You can't fuck kids on your own.
Well, I think they like to do it because it's so evil.
Yeah, exactly.
These are people that, it's like you said, having their empathy deleted.
Mm-hmm.
They're like kind of like psychopaths. They're like evil pieces of garbage, you know?
Sucks to be them.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it.
They're probably going to hell. So
yeah,
or whatever hell is. They're just. I have a feeling that like if you do bad shit, you probably pay for it in the end. Who knows?
Some sort of karmic way.
Yeah. Oh, there's that beat, man. That's a crispy.
Yeah, I guess we had held that thought on Scientology, eh?
Oh yeah. What if they were actually right?
Maybe.
Dude, that would be
I don't think so.
Funny.
I don't think so.
Could you imagine? Just like imagine 50 years from now, it's like everyone's just like, oh yeah, yeah, for sure there was a giant volcano where all the space alien ghosts went, and then it blew up, and then they make us depressed. 2 billion years later, they come out of the ground to make us depressed. Of course,
Well, I think, do you think Tom?
Of course, you have to pay money.
Yeah, I think Tom Cruise actually believes in this stuff. Do you think?
Yeah.
You think he's like, obviously he's getting paid, but
I watched this really interesting interview. Do you remember the show King of Queens?
Yeah.
King of Queens. God damn it. So the show King of Queens, the main character's wife. The woman.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she was a Scientologist.
She was a Scientologist, and she went on Joe Rogan. I'm sorry for forgetting your name, but it's been a while since I watched that podcast, and she talked about how while she was there, because she quit, she's no longer in Scientology anymore.
I saw that interview.
Yeah. So she was talking about how like they revere him like a god. He can do whatever he wants because he's like the most famous, So he can do whatever he wants. So at that point, I don't know if he believes in it more so than he believes it's about him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I think warped around.
I think he. I do think he's crazy. Because I saw that interview when he was on Oprah. You saw how crazy he was, right?
Oh yeah.
And
was he high or some shit? Like
I think he's crazy. Man.
Okay.
I think he's crazy, but I also think he's not crazy enough to fully believe Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's getting paychecks. He's crazy enough to trick himself into believing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like he's tricking himself to accept the money.
Yeah.
But there's no way he's crazy enough to fully believe it.
I don't know. I think he might be.
Maybe.
I feel like definitely part of it is calculated, but like from what I understand is they really heavily indoctrinate you in it. Like it's in some next level.
From what I
shit.
hear about people being a part of it, it's like some next level, almost brainwashing kind of thing happening.
Mm-hmm.
But brainwashing is, I mean, it's an interesting topic in general because it sounds like science fiction, but it does seem to happen. I mean, you see like those cults, like Charles Manson cults.
What was that cult out in the desert?
Yeah,
with the Rajneesh.
Yeah, there's a lot of famous cults. The Kool-Aid one in Guyana.
Oh yeah.
See, that's some sort of. I think that's some sort of mind control.
Anime in general. Yeah.
But a lot of these cults, I mean, I think they link back to CIA MK Ultra experiments. They did a lot of, mind control things with acid, and I think it's been said that Charles Manson was using acid to mind control his cult.
MK Ultra really fucks with me. It's very idea. Because I trip out all the time and I'm always just like, you know what? Realistically, I could be hypnotized right now. I wouldn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like,
dun, dun, dun.
Hypnotism is so powerful that people could literally, like, say you and I were hypnotized. There could be someone right here, right now, and we wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
Like, literally. And that thought trips me the fuck out all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always
and that's what David Icke's talking about.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
reprogramming of your mind so that things that are there you kind of miss and see. You don't see them because you don't want to see them.
They literally don't exist to you.
Yeah
Exactly. Very interesting.
But anyways, I think we should wrap it up now.
Yeah, I'm kind of want to eat that pizza.
Yeah, you got a pizza waiting for you. Anyways, thanks guys for listening to episode 2 of the podcast.
Yeah.
The Midnight Cast. This was our follow-up to the Jordan Maxwell interview. We talked about a potential second guest we want to try to have on, David Icke.
That's the one.
We want to do a lot of things with this website. We're going to have a lot of different kind of shows. Maybe we do some video game reviews.
Yeah, just in general, look forward to more content to come. We want to start just working on stuff. It's really fun. Like, it's a lot more fun than you'd think. So.
Anyways, thanks guys for listening. Midnight 931.
Peace.